Hi everyone. So I have not gone live in a minute, but I was trying to decide what I wanted to do for my last post for Mental Health Awareness Month, and I decided to do a live. So earlier today, I had the opportunity to attend a workshop hosted by the Houston Suicide Prevention Coalition, and the workshop provided people who have lived experience, whether you're a suicide loss survivor or a suicide attempt survivor, with tools and really great information on how to tell your story in a safe way, a way that protects the audience, that doesn't re-traumatize you or others. And so it was a really great workshop, and I felt really fitting given the last day of this being Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I thought, instead of writing out a post, I would go live, and I would share a little bit of my story and what mental health and Mental Health Awareness Month means to me. So many of you who are on my Facebook page that has known me for any length of time have heard bits and pieces of my story about how I have had different struggles, whether it was with being a caregiver for a family member or even myself, the struggles that I've had with my mental health over the years and how it's impacted my ability, whether it was pursuing school or working or being a friend or a sister, or in my previous marriage. And so it was really hard, not only being a black woman, but being raised in the black church and all the different parts and pieces of me um, that I really struggled with my mental health. And so it really caused a long journey of me trying to navigate that and me trying to figure out, like, who am I and how do I function in this society that really doesn't understand mental health all that much. Specifically, I struggled with depression, and so it was really hard me growing up feeling like, I had to be this perfect person, this perfect friend, this perfect student, this perfect worker, this perfect wife, this perfect daughter. But knowing that I was struggling with these things, especially growing up in the church and being a person of faith, I really struggled with the divide, and really it was like an internal battle between being someone who struggled with depression, who has struggled with suicidal ideations, but also being a person of faith and trying to understand, like, how can God love me when I struggle with these things that I'm told I shouldn't struggle with because I was doing all the things right, but I was still having those feelings. And so today during the workshop and yesterday, I had coffee with an amazing person, and we were just talking about our lives and different experiences and things that we've gone through. And it's really interesting and really a blessing how, when you go through these things, when you go through trials, when you go through hard times, when you're going through it, it doesn't make sense and it hurts, and you don't want to deal with it. You don't want any part of it, and it's just really hard in those moments, especially when you haven't built up that muscle, or you don't have the coping skills or the tools to be able to help yourself navigate through those hard times, or if you don't have the community or people around you to really help hold you up while you're going through these things, to really see and understand, why am I going through this? And a lot of times you ask yourself, why me? And so, as I was meeting with the person that I was talking with yesterday and even today in the storytelling workshop, I have really begun to understand and be able to look back throughout my life and throughout the journey of how my mental health has impacted me, and be able to understand and tie it to my purpose and my why, and to be able to understand and see that everything that I went through was to build me, was to shape me, it was to mold me, it was to help get me to where the woman that I'm growing into, the Ebony that I am now, even when I didn't know the terminology and things that I know, wanting to enter into the field of social work. I have no desire to be a therapist. No shade. I have a lot of therapist friends, people who work in that field. That's not my ministry. But being able even back then in the past, where there was students that I worked with, their parents, colleagues, prior church members, I was already doing that work when I was hurting, when I felt like I was a mess inside. I just didn't know what it was. But now being in school and having the understanding of, what some of those things are, I can look back and see, like, Ebony, you were already doing the work. And so over the years, growing and going through the things that I went through, and there were many times where, like, I hit rock bottom and I didn't feel like I could come back from it. But just really being grateful and being now to understand and see that it was not meant for me to hit rock bottom and stay in rock bottom. And I can recognize and I can give thanks to God and myself, because I give myself credit for the hard work that I've done, because it's been hard work that I've had to, pick myself, reach out for help when I didn't want to, feeling like, I'm taking 10 steps forward and 50 steps back, and always just having to figure out how to come back and come back stronger and better, and even knowing sometimes when it's okay not to be okay, and like resting in that. And so it's been this journey that has ebbed and flowed, and now I can see that I would not be here without those past versions of Ebony. And I wouldn't be here without those experiences. I wouldn't have been able to help my family members who dealt with challenges with their mental health if I didn't go through what I went through. But not only going through it, but having the desire to grow through it and to understand why were the things that I went through, how did they impact me? How did they change the way I think about myself, how I perceive the world, how I take information in, and really doing that work. And like the conversation that I was having with my friend yesterday, like, healing, it is not always easy. Are there beautiful parts about it? Yes, but healing is hard work. But the hard work is going to be worth it. And it's not just a moment where you ever arrive. It's constant work and it's constant growth and growing. And so I'm just really grateful. A previous version of Ebony could not say this, but I'm really grateful for where I am now. And I'm grateful for those hard times and those dark times, because it's brought me to where I am today. And being able to even say that on this platform in front of people, like, I've dealt with the shame and guilt around all of that. But now I can say that I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself for seeking to understand how depression has impacted me. And, I also struggled with like self-harm. It's been probably 6 to maybe 8+ years since I've engaged in like self-harm behavior and just so many other unhealthy things that I used to do and engage in. I'm just so grateful that I either haven't dealt with it anymore, or like it's become very minimal, and I've built up the skills and the tools to be able to learn how to cope with it and how to live with it. And I'm really grateful for that. And it wasn't just me, it was also individuals that were strategically placed in my life to be able to help hold me up and to be able to pour into me and to be able to pray for me and to be able to walk through this journey with me. And one semester in my foundation internship class, my professor opened up class that evening, and this was around the time when the NASW had done something with adding in self-care into their preamble. And so he challenged us to look at self-care through the lens of community care. So as I'm wrapping up, I want to leave that charge with you on the last day of Mental Health Awareness Month. And I know a lot of people tend to think, oh, there's no awareness month and week and day for everything. But it's just really time that we take out to just really be more intentional about paying attention to our mental health and our well-being, and really sitting with ourselves and checking in with ourselves to see, okay, how am I? How is my sister doing? How is my brother doing? What can I do to help them? What can I do to help myself? And so that's really what this time is. And so I want to leave you with a few things. I want to encourage you to really think about, how can we as a society begin to look at self-care through the lens of community care? How can we build our communities? How can we wrap around each other, and when we're struggling, say, hey sis, how are you doing? What can I do for you? And really listen without judgment. How can we say, bro, what can I do for you? Let's go out walking. I see you're saying some things and I'm kind of worried, but also feel like it's okay to admit that we need that help. I also really want to encourage you, for those, when you feel that you're ready, because that's a very personal decision. A couple years ago, when I had made the decision that I wanted to do something more with the things that I was struggling with, and I wanted to become an advocate and do advocacy work, I knew part of that was through telling my story. And there's a quote by the late great Maya Angelou, and it says, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. And that quote resonated with me, and it was really the catalyst for me saying, okay, I have a story inside of me, and I want to be able to take the things that I went through and that I'm going through to be able to help people, because I didn't see people who looked like me who were going through the things that I was going through, and I knew that I wanted to be able to do something with that. And so that's what I've been able to do. And so for those of you that feel you're ready and that's something that you want to do, just know that our stories have power. Our stories can help people feel seen and heard when it's done in the right way and when you're ready, because you definitely don't want to re-traumatize yourself. So I encourage you. And then the last thing I want to leave with you on this last day of Mental Health Awareness Month is just to take the day to do something for yourself. Take the day to have fun, to do something silly, whether it's going for a walk or playing with your kids or your niece or your nephew, whatever it is. Do something today for you that is going to fill your cup, that is going to make you smile, that is going to do something to make you happy. So those are the last things that I want to leave you with. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I hope, and my prayer and my wish is that we as individuals will learn to really start to take care of our mental health even more, as communities, that we will learn how to take care of each other, and then hopefully one day we will live in a world and a society where mental health is no longer such a taboo topic, and where there's no longer so much deep stigma rooted in it, and we'll be able to create systems and policies and research and funding that will really be able to help people live lives that can help produce better mental health outcomes.